Hi there, welcome back. About 2 weeks ago I finished college and can finally say I'm a computer science graduate, which is insane, but I guess that's just an optimistic way of saying I'm unemployed. But let's not talk about that now, because I have a game to complete. During those few months I worked on what I wanted this game to be, and also did some of the art for it. So let's jump straight into Godot and show you what I did, because I did a lot. So, first things first, I added a window to the room because the room scene still needed a lot of work. And the joke here is that this is just a hole in the wall that the princess couldn't fix because she's poor, so she just framed it as if it's a window. Then I worked on the first task, which is cleaning the house. I imported the cobwebs and dirt assets, which were just one big asset that I edited the region of, because it's way more convenient that way, and added them to the scene and placed them around the room. I also wanted to use the groups in Godot that I have heard a lot about, and spent way too long trying to make them work, but then eventually gave up. The idea was that when the mouse clicks on something, if that thing is in the first task group, then it will do a specific block of code. But to be honest, after a few hours I just felt like I was making things way more complicated than they needed to be, so I just used the normal signals on all of the 5 assets. They worked out just fine, but the timeline that was supposed to start right after them was glitching out and not showing the text like normal. It's funny looking at it now because I went through similar issues all through this devlog that all had the exact same solution. Basically, I was adding the code in the process function, which is a function that is called each frame, so the code was running every single frame. That's why it was glitching out. And the solution was just to return the flag of that if statement to its original value, so that the condition becomes false and the code doesn't run again. It's such a simple concept, and I don't know how I keep forgetting it over and over again. But anyways, I moved on and wanted to improve the save and recover file that I did before, but thankfully it didn't work out, because I did end up changing this first task and adding more stuff to it later on. In the second session, I worked more on Figma for all of the UI aspects. And one of the next tasks for the game was choosing a wallpaper color. So I added that above a screenshot of the game to see if it fit or not. And since the walls take up a lot of space visually, I didn't want their color to be off-putting or an eyesore because of how vibrant they are. So I adjusted them to be more of a chill and not a saturated color. This might make them seem a bit dull, but it's way better than having a really distracting color. With some of the UI done, I imported it onto Godot and started working immediately. The crown image from before in this scene was just a placeholder, and in this devlog I made it to change as the player's choice, which I will get into later. And instead of levels, the player will have to collect hearts by improving themselves to be a suitable princess. At this point, I still hadn't made the hearts icon, so I kept it blank, but it was looking good so far. The next thing I did was the UI for the wallpaper color, which, to be honest, I don't know why I did it at that time. I could have started on other things, but I guess I was just way too excited about it. And the neat thing that I found out was that if you click the scale option and press shift while you scale the object, it will be uniform without any stretching, which was quite useful because apparently I made all my assets gigantic. The individual colors were also all one asset, like the cobwebs and crowns. This is genuinely so efficient, and it's definitely becoming my favorite trick so far. Later on, I worked on animating that UI. I had a vision for it, but I have never really tried animating anything like this. And even though it's still just a simple animation, I considered it a bit out of my abilities. But I got it working in the end, and I think it looks really good. I put a marker 2D above the princess for later, when I actually work on that wallpaper task, and with that, the second session is over. For the third session, I worked on making the crown in the UI change to be as what the player chose, which weirdly enough wasn't as quick and easy as I thought. But it turned out I was referencing the old crown sprite and not the crown area scene. So after I figured that out, everything was working well. Then I added the crystal heart icon to the UI, and I'm not really sure if the color is too dark for the game and I should make it lighter, or if it's just alright the way it is, because it's the same color that I outlined everything else in. So let me know if I should change it or not. In my opinion, it looked really cute in the game, so I was happy enough to keep it as it is. And as I was brainstorming in the session, I realized that it would be really cute if there was an item that showed up when you did the cleaning task, like a broom or a duster. So I did just that. I quickly jumped into Medibang to draw it, even though I hate doing art and coding in the same session, because it stresses me out. But what I didn't know was that the coding part of this was the actual nightmare. So here is a breakdown of what I wanted to do. When the player clicks on the cobweb, the duster would show in the mouse position and do a little animation, and then it and the cobweb would disappear. If only things were that simple. I don't want this video to be 3 hours long, so instead of going through what went wrong in each step, I'll just give you the short version. I made the animation of the duster sweeping, which I was very happy with. I added the duster scene as a child of the room scene and played the animation at the mouse position. It didn't work. Then it worked. But the cobwebs were disappearing before the duster animation was finished, which would be acceptable, but not for me. I experimented with using the await keyword, and I knew it was definitely the right way to go about this problem. It didn't work multiple times. And then it worked. Did I stop here? Of course not. The same sweep animation playing over and over again was repetitive in my opinion. So to make it a bit more interesting, I randomized the number. If it's 1, then the animation will play as usual. But if it's 2, then the X scale of the duster will be -1, meaning it will flip horizontally, and then the animation will play. It didn't work. Like, it was hilariously terrible. And then I made it work. For the 4th and last session of this devlog, I realized that the wallpaper task UI didn't have a confirmation button, so I added that because, once again, I was way too excited about this task and forgot about the one before it, which is placing the crown in Chocolat's inventory. At this point, I was getting familiar with the idea of instantiating scenes as children of other objects and manipulating their attributes, so this part was quite alright for me. The problem wasn't with the crown though, it was with the bar. From the previous devlogs, I animated it to go in and out of the screen, but now I realize I only animated the sprite and not the whole node. So I animated the whole thing all over again, only to realize it's in the wrong spot. So I animated it again, and I swear to God, what is wrong with it? I don't know why it's being placed there when in no other scene does it originate there, and I'm pretty sure I had this exact issue previously, but I just can't be bothered to check, so let's just move on. After what seemed like forever, the crown is now moved to the right spot in the bar. After all of this, I was too tired to continue the task I liked the most, which was the wallpaper color one, but I pushed myself to make sure that at least some code of it works. The pop-up appeared exactly where I wanted, which I used the marker 2D from the princess scene for, and it also follows the player around, so that is good. The final thing I did was change the wall color to white, just to make sure I was referencing the right object, and the code was working well. And seeing the wall change to white made me way more happy than I thought I would ever be. Now, in the next devlog, I will continue this task, and also start using the new character assets that I drew, which are really cute. Honestly, I never expected to develop this game in such a way. I thought even a small project like this would take me years. So I'm glad I'm enjoying my progress and getting things done as well. I hope you enjoyed this video and stay hellish.